Hello. Doesn't look like anyone is in yet, so I will just keep hanging out until some people pop in. Looks like we've got some people on the way. Vampires are awesome. I don't know what I was worried about. Hello, welcome folks. Welcome Darklight, Decoy. Thanks for joining. Tonight we are going to design the vampire class for Mythcraft. Certainly not in its entirety, but we'll get some ideas outlined. We will at least figure out what the different tracks are potentially going to be. Maybe get the entry talent pretty close to drafted, and just kind of figure out what each of the different tracks are going to look like. Welcome Gabor, welcome Pixelgeist. Thanks for joining. So I guess I'll start by I should have thought to do this earlier. Let me pull up the core rulebook real quick. How's everyone's day going? Hello Aurora, good to see you again. Hi Rachel, welcome. This will be both Mythcraft and 5th edition. For tonight, I'm only outlining in Mythcraft terms, but yes, it'll be available in both editions. I have actually already done quite a bit of work with the 5th edition vampire class and what that might look like, but I haven't touched it for Mythcraft yet. So we're gonna dive in and figure that out. All right. Give me just a second to. Let's see. Okay, perfect. So this is sharing my whole window, so you guys can see my class tracks here. Start student teaching. That's exciting. What course or what subject? In Mythcraft, we tried to give each class a healthy kind of spread of talent tracks. So the mage here is a really good example. We've got a linear track, which is just like you take Awaken Spellbook and then you take Spell Scribe. Let me enlarge this a little bit. There we go. And then you take Awaken Spellbook 2, and so on and so forth, just all the way down that linear track. As opposed to Arcane Weaving, which is more like a menu. Like you take one talent, and then you're given a series of options, and then you take the next talent that gives you another series of options. And then eventually you get like the capstone talent. Sorcery track is more of a split track. You choose Careful Casting or Wellspring Tap, and those affect your choices as you go down. There's another example of kind of a menu track. And then down here, the Oracle has some webbed tracks, which you see in a lot of like video games. So like you might take wheel, and then you might take wheel spells, and then pop over and take weapons, and then pop back and take Fortune's Favor. You can kind of choose your own adventure with that. But with each of the different classes, we try to show kind of a different spread of class tracks based on the different options you get. I think the Warrior is another really good example of that. The Warrior has, here we go, has one that's just completely straight, one that's very, very webbed. Protection kind of goes all over the place. One that's just a clean split track, and then one that's more of a hybrid, kind of a mix and match of different options. So I have that in mind as we're moving into designing the vampire class. Again, a disclaimer: if you make any suggestions, please only make suggestions if you are content with me taking them and using them, or with me like taking them and changing them, or not, or just straight up not using them. So suggestions are welcome. Just know if you make them, like they're fair game for me to use or to not use. Um, catch up on comments real quick. Um, well, Rachel, thank you for hanging out while you can. English language arts, all right, that'll be really fun, Decoy. I did student teaching for history and humanities when I was in college, so similar vein there. Vampires, are they going to just feed on blood, or will there be other things and different types? I think just blood. I don't, based on some of the lore that we're working on, I don't really see doing anything different there. If you want a vampire kind of build that doesn't have to feed on blood, probably go for like the Dampier lineage and then pick a different class. I think vampire class is going to be purely one of the restrictions is just like blood. You gotta have it. Let's see. Jan, welcome. Good to see you again. And John, yes, this will be in 5e. The only class that is Mythcraft exclusive from this packet is the Hellcrafter class, which is kind of like the Devil Forge Master from Castlevania. We've got our own like unique spins on a couple things, but that's like the inspiration for it. But the Lycanthrope class, which we designed a little bit last Friday, is going to be for both both Mythcraft and 5e. The Vampire class is also going to be for both. I'm only working on it in Mythcraft terms right now. But yeah, it will be for both. Lord track, feral track, hybrid track. I'm curious what you mean by hybrid. Would that be like a Vampire Diaries like Klaus, or half vampire, half werewolf? Spoilers for a show that's been out forever. Or do you mean like a Dampier, like half vampire, half human, or something else? I'm not quite sure what you mean by hybrid. Blood magic, definitely something like that. I have an idea for like kind of a casting branch and like a some kind of magic casting branch, and then more of like a martial branch, and then kind of your social courtier branch. So we'll see where we go with those ideas. You raise a good point there. A soul essence vampire would be sick. So I'm gonna just make a little note of that in case we find a way to work that in. That's not going to be my focus right now, but if something really cool like crystallizes while we're going about that, then we'll see if we can work that in. Yeah. Yeah, okay, Dampier. Sean, we're gonna have that as a lineage option, so you can you'll certainly have that like playstyle, and then you can choose. I guess technically that means you could be a Dampier who later turns and becomes a full vampire, if you're a Dampier lineage and a vampire class. Which the reason, from like a design perspective, the reason we chose for the vampire and the lycanthrope or the were creature to be a class instead of a lineage is because in fifth edition especially, there's not a lot of development that happens with the lineages or the races. Usually it's just stuff you get at level 1 and that's it. Mythcraft, obviously, you advance a little bit more in lineage ideas, but we just wanted the option for vampire or werewolf to be like your entire character concept, the same way that being a fighter or a wizard is usually more central to your character concept than being a wizard, being an elf or a dwarf. There's a lot more that you can do with vampires and werewolves than just have them be lineages. And from a lore perspective, they're not lineages. I understand that like the desire to play like a vampire fighter or a werewolf druid, for example. My response to that is just multi-class, because before you were a vampire, before you were a werewolf, you were a halfling, you were an Aarakocra, whatever lineage you might be, that is separate from your vampirism. So anyone can be bitten, anyone can be turned. That raises strange lore questions with like Warforged, Remnants, Radine, some of the more like non-biological lineages. But that's that's up to you and your mythcrafter or your dungeon master. And I don't know. As we get into developing the campaign a little bit more, we may weigh in there a little bit. But yeah, I mean that's kind of the reason we're going the class route with these options. So yeah, let's jump in and get started here. I'm going to pencil in some of those things we talked about earlier. So we've got a martial track. We've got a courtier or a political. Courtier sounds cooler. But like your social, your like charisma main vampire. We've got your blood magic that was mentioned. Got a let's see. Let's think through all of the different the different tropes of vampirism. Yeah, some kind of rogue track would be nice. Let me put that in. Sneaky stabby track. Yeah, summoning track. Summon like wolves, bats, any of that. Let's see. Most common vampire tropes. Power tropes. Blood rage, kind of. Yeah, I like that idea. I think we'll work some blood rage elements into it, but to go full berserker again, I would say just kind of multi-class between those two. Let's see. Biting creates new vampires. So that's a good question. Does biting create new vampires? Is it a venom, or do you have to feed them? Because I've seen both done, and I like both. Oh hey, there's Klaus. I was talking about him earlier. I actually really like Vampire Diaries. The first 4 seasons, I think, were, if not really good, they were really enjoyable. Season 5 lost me. It just got too. They were scraping the bottom of the barrel for ideas. Ooh, I like that. Gabor, kind of like a Nosferatu kind of thing. Whoops, that's spoilers. Let me delete that or exit out of that. Yeah, possibility of making your own army I want to be careful with because we've got another entire class coming out that does that. But like summoning wolves and bats and that kind of thing, enthralling people with the courtier track, like there'll be some options there. I love that, Pierre. Court order. Yeah, I love that conversation. Like, does a warrant constitute an invitation into someone's house? Let me make a note up here. Do vampires bite or feed to turn others? I believe they feed in Ansera, but we'll come back to that. Let's see. Okay, yeah, sunlight. We'll get to limitations. So, oh yeah, the no reflection thing is nice. I mean, we've got that in the sneaky track. Shape shifting be some kind of cool thing. Probably a magic item to Daywalk, I think, Pierre, but maybe some kind of talent. Um, yeah, okay, so there's a lot of ideas with like kind of the psychic vampire. You've got extra mind control, you've got the ability to speak with other vampires, maybe to use echolocation to communicate like in such a way that other creatures can't understand you. Um, there's obviously the mind control, creating familiars, that kind of thing. Thanks, Laudamus. I appreciate that. I've got to come up with. We don't have to come up with it. I would like to come up with one more idea, so we've got six like good workable tracks, and then we'll scrape them away or we'll merge them together as we need to. Um, yeah, I'm like I've floated around the Vampire the Masquerade world for a long time, but I've never actually picked up the book and read it, so I should add that to my reading list. Um, let's shape. We don't have a dedicated like shape shifting thing. Let's do that. Flesh sculpture is good. I think that can go in with shape shifting. Yeah. Let me just see if this has anything more useful. Okay, we know they have fangs, garlic and crosses, stake to the heart. Okay, those are all things that we all knew, but helpful to get in the right mindset. Yeah, Jan, the half blood that can daywalk, I think would be the Dampier vampire archetype. Yeah, let's try that real quick. We will see. Let's see if this is. Um, I actually haven't read Dresden Files yet either. I've heard a lot of really good things about it. It's on my list, but again, I've got a very long reading list and only so much time in each day. Um, all right, let's see. This is more just like character tropes than power tropes. I'll leave it up in case we want to reference it. Um, so, what does a vampire get um, just at the outset? Phase walking. Let me make a note on that with shapeshifting. Phasing. So for sunlight sensitivity, garlic, crosses, like all of those different kinds of things, we've got some really cool lore there. I don't want to give it all away at this time, so I'm just gonna put forbiddances. And limitations. At the outset, you've got forbidden system limitations. You've got a bite attack. You've got. Let's give you. It should be a relatively powerful opening talent because it has um, a lot of counteracting work, a lot of limitations. Um, to compare and contrast, let's look at the lycanthrope. I did a whole stream on this last Friday, so if you missed it or you're like more interested in our lycanthrope philosophy, you can look at that. But there's you get like a little bit of a limitation, vulnerable to silver, and memory loss around the full moon. But you also get to pick which moon out of the 5 moons of Ansera. You get to pick what kind of creature you're related to, like straight up werewolf, or if you're some other kind of creature. And then there's like the more, I would say more traditional, but it's a weird kind of stacked set of talents here. But there's the more traditional talents that you can take. So yeah, I think some kind of charm at the offset. 2 per rest, and then like later on you can work up to doing it half your charisma per rest, all of your charisma per rest. Let's see. In the sneaky stabby track, I think that a climb speed should be one of the first things you get. Just thinking of ideas as we get there. Enchanting people, Laudamus, we've got the courtier track down here. I think most of the enchanting is going to be there. But certainly, like, some kind of base level charm should be there. Oh, of course, Dark Vision. Thank you. I knew there was an obvious one. I'm not going to link vampires to the moons the way I would were creatures, Dante's Virgil, but we do have the shape-shifting track over here that we'll work on. Climbing and jumping improvements. Yeah, maybe climb speed is here, and then like climbing over, like the full-on spider climb is later on. And flying, not for a class entry. That's too much. Should they be able to learn to fly? Yes. At potentially level 2? No. Levitate to flying at higher levels. Yeah, that's better. I still think that's a little much for level 2. Probably. Let's see. Rename that to Shadow Hopper track. That'll be like the more mobility kind of stuff. Wow, lots of ideas here. Charm. Reaction time for vampires. Yeah. Maybe they just gain the ability to exploit, which is similar to opportunity attacks from 5th edition. I just had another idea. We're gonna move that over here. I'm gonna call it something cooler than magic, but magic is all I can think of right now. Strengthen unarmed attacks. Yeah, other tracks like that exist in other classes, so definitely some kind of thing for the vampire here. So we've got all of these forbiddances. Again, there are going to be some that are very typical of vampires. There are going to be some that are new or at least a little bit different from vampires in like typical, like in the Forgotten Realms. The lore there is different than the lore in the real world, which is different than the lore in Ansera. So there'll be some overlap for sure, some familiarity, and some things that are different. Bite attack, charm, dark vision, the ability to exploit, and some kind of bonus to your speed or to your climbing. That's a lot of stuff. That's a lot of stuff. Maybe, yeah, it just depends on if that's too... I think that's a good first draft, right? Ooh, yeah, immunity, like limited immortality. Actually, hang on. I'm gonna put the limited immortality in the Bloodmancy track. At present, I'm not really thinking about them feeding off of more than blood. Laudamus, Jan also mentioned like feeding off of someone's soul instead of their blood, which is a really cool idea and fits with some lore that we're working on with Mythcraft. But that's up here as a maybe we'll add it, just so I don't forget about it. But right now I'm just kind of focused on more traditional like blood feeding. Okay, I think we're good on the class entry. It might be a little strong, but it's a first draft, and I mean it's a pre-first draft, right? It's an outline, and after it's drafted, we'll have plenty of time to play test it and figure out if this is too much. It might be a little strong. It is a little strong. We'll see if it's a little too strong. All right, martial track. I saw a bunch of ideas here. Let's just spitball them all real quick. Martial track. Bloodmancy track. I'm already anticipating some overlap between these two, so I'm going to move them next to each other. Don't age. Immune to disease and poison. Except for being poisoned by garlic, etc. Just catching up on chat here. Yeah, limitations about how quickly they need to feed, or how often they need to feed. Yeah, exactly, Laudamus. That's the kind of stuff I'm looking for the martial or bloodmancy here. Welcome, Doodley. Thanks for joining. All right, bonuses when feeding. Extra AP. Extra attribute mods, attack, damage, whatever that might look like. Borrow a little bit from might borrow a little bit from Berserker, Ranger, or Warrior. I wouldn't copy like directly, but there may be abilities like the Ranger gives you fighting instinct, survival instinct ability. So so maybe there's a talent in here that gives you a very similar ability. Some ideas there. Bloodmancy. Again, some overlap with the magic track here. Yeah, improving metaphysical could be really cool. That's luck, coordination, and sanity. So I have to figure out exactly kind of how the balance there works. Thank you, Sean. Good note. improve bite attack. Gain claws attack. Improve claws damage. And bite attack might add bleeding to enemies, might add healing to you. The magic track, trying to think of a cooler name for that track, but the names, I mean, nothing is final. The names are the least of like my concern right now. I just want to be sure that that everything is that ideas are being generated. Yeah, Dante's Virgil, that's a good idea for like a bonus action attack for 5th edition. Yeah, different ideas we can do there. The magic track, let's say gain one of your choice. Student of, if I can spell, of the arcane. Or initiate of the occult. I think arcane and occult. I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna say that a vampire could never learn divine magic, because certainly divine magic includes fiends and devils and that kind of creature, but they'd have to multi-class or go outside of the vampire class to get there. Thinking about like Dracula as seen in Castlevania, like I mean he's got his huge library with all of these different scientific and arcane tomes, and then thinking about the other vampires in Castlevania specifically, and the other vampires in in Dracula himself, in Bram Stoker's Dracula, are a lot more interested in kind of the occult side of things. Necroscope is another good example of that. I can't remember Aurora, but I like that. Dark arts. Yeah, so the other thing, Bloodmancy is really cool. I think that the vampire should certainly get access to it. I'm not sure about it being its own full track right now. I might move it into Martial, or I might move it into Dark Arts. Let's see. Not sure exactly what direction to go there. Courtier track, improve your charms. I like that idea about grappling. Yeah, let me throw that in real quick. Yeah, I'm thinking about maybe a half track for Bloodmancy. Make it like kind of a popular dip of like 5 or 6 talents that that people enter into just to get some like basic resistances and basic immortality kind of stuff, casual immortality. But yeah, maybe it'll go Crimson Curse or Crimson Thirst. Maybe it'll go Dark Arts. Maybe it'll stay its own. I'm not quite sure. Courtier track, improve your charms, skill points. Um, I saw another idea for courtier. Let me. Oh, maybe psionic abilities. Compulsion to, yeah, not like a full charm necessarily, but some kind of effect. Yeah, so you've got kind of the crowd influence, and you've got the very specific, like, yeah, suggestion kind of ability. TA against charm creatures, that's really good. Command style ability. Yeah, like in 5e terms, I'd look at maybe the Battle Master for inspiration. Check Warrior and Zealot for inspo. Hello, thanks for joining us, Andy. Alright, we've got some disguise stuff. Yeah. Troubadour. I should look at the Troubadour and different bard subclasses for ideas there. Ooh, that's really cool, Darklight. Yeah, that's almost that's like some of the professions in the Mythcraft base game, like the name is escaping me. The noble title, where you like kind of build a court, or the pioneer, where you build a small town as you go. So something kind of like that. I know Grant was really wanting to make a courtier profession, and so maybe just having some abilities where you like immediately get to dip into that profession and develop it as you go, something kind of like that. Oh yeah. The Inquisitor, the Witch Hunter lets you get like a demonologist, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think I'm pretty confident we're going to end up building out some kind of courtier profession, and so being able to just directly dip into that, I think, would be really fun. Yeah, ability to calm emotions. That's a psionic ability as well. So same kind of idea. I think we're pretty good on Courtier. I think we're pretty good on Crimson Thirst as far as idea generation goes. After we get through the rest of these and decide if we're going to keep all of them or combine any of them, at that point, I'm going to figure out what kind of class track makes the most sense with them. If it should be linear, if it should be webbed, or if it should be kind of like a menu built more wide than deep. And maybe actually draft a couple talents, but probably more likely what we'll do is we'll just write out kind of outlines of how and where the different abilities would get unlocked. Let's jump to Shadow Hopper real quick. So this is going to be your more rogue-like kind of vampire. So we've got your climb speed, spider climb, yeah, shadow travel, that kind of stuff. Trying to think of other roguish overlaps. Gain sneak attack dice when you're feeding, extra movement, Extra movement's really powerful in Mythcraft, so I'm gonna put it here as like part of the outline, but I'm gonna be really careful before I just commit to that. Invisibility first when you just stand still, but you can work up to something like 5e. So that's a fun little track there. I like that. Like that invisibility idea. Yeah. Mist form. Any sort of. Okay, nice. Let's see. Stuff to do with echolocation and avoid from hearing. Shadow weapons, maybe. You can access that through a couple other different ways. Yeah. There's different kinds of weapons, natural and otherwise, that you can conjure or enhance through other magical abilities. So I'm not sure about building that into the class. Improved dark vision. That's a really good one, Lotimus. I like that a lot, Pixelgeist. Yeah. Don't show up for divination. Shadow Blade, I'll put it down for the outline. That would be really cool, Jan. I like that idea. Vampires, I'm trying to remember the lore that we've confirmed. I believe vampires in Ansera do need to sleep, but some kind of mechanic there I think would be really cool. What other magical abilities was I gonna include? Oh, yeah. There we go. Just make areas of darkness. Not sure what else to... That's really cool. I like that. Turn yourself into a shadow. And that's looking pretty good for different Shadow Hopper ideas. Lord of the Pack, whether this is a full track or just like a little, another little half track. Man, lots of good ideas there. Let's see. Lunch. Alright, Lord of the Pack. Summon wolves. Bats. Bat? Rats. Skeletons. Zombies. Spiders. Snakes? Is that a thing with vampires? Shadows. Depending on the lore. I'll put it down as a maybe. Snakes. Why'd it have to be snakes? Big auras of mist. There's some overlap there with some Conjuring Darkness with Shadowhopper, so we'll have to figure out kind of where that shows up. The There were a lot of snakes in one of those movie night movies we watched with Cody. It was I enjoyed the movie. I do not like those as vampires. It was the one with that ended in like the Mesoamerican ziggurat. I can't remember the name of the movie, but those weren't vampires. They were cool monsters. They just weren't vampires. Yeah, that's really cool. Heal the conjurations with blood. Just kind of resources to play with. You can Mesoamerican vampires. Yeah. I guess that's just not my thing, not my flavor of vampire. Um, yeah, auras, but just your summons. That's really cool. I've also got to be careful there with the Hellcrafter. Again, we can always just like draft them both and then figure out where they're too similar and go from there. All right, we've got two more big ones. Whoops. Shape-shifting track. Yeah, I like that, Sean. Let me... I like that with Dark Arts too. That could be really fun. Shape-shifting, let's figure out some ideas here real quick. Oh, yeah. Transforms into mist. Oh, mist form is in the Shadow Hopper track. Should mist form be in the shape-shifting track, though? Having a Nivets moment for you homebrew fans. Blood Dragon at high levels. That'd be really cool. Shapeshift into mist skeleton, not skeleton. Wolf bat. Swarm of bats. Swarm of... Yeah, Dracula's second form. I still haven't beaten Circle of the Moon. I've gotten up to his second form. His first form is a breeze. Second form, I can't beat it. Some kind of spectral form, yeah. Yeah, mosquitoes, that's good. I have flies here. Mosquitoes is better. All right. I feel good about that. It may not be a super, like, ice-quitos. Yep. All right. So, Bloodmancy and Dark Arts. I need to see. I think these are probably the most natural to combine. I don't know. A lot of people are gonna want the like, you don't age anymore, you're immune to disease and poison kind of stuff. That's excellent, Aurora. That's really cool. Right. Um, Whether vampires inherently age or not depends, I think, in part on your mythos, and or it depends entirely on your mythos, right? I think that commonly vampires are perpetually the age that they were turned at. I think is like a very common depiction of it. Um, in some iterations of Dracula, in some iterations of or in some iterations of Dracula, and in Vampire Diaries, characters look much older when they've gone a long time without blood, because it shows that they're like desiccating, and um, and so they're like shriveled and look significantly older, and then they like revitalize as they consume blood. Um, and Once again, I yeah. That's really cool. Would go better in Bloodmancy than in Dark Arts. LOS. LOS. I can't think of what game LOS would be. Um, get memories from feeding. Yeah, that's really cool too. I like that. Lord of Shadows. Thank you. That's right. Yeah, I have Lord of Shadows. I just haven't started playing it yet. Um, Man, okay, we've got a ton of ideas here. Those all look really good. Shapeshifting track is a little bit light, but I think it's just like different talents to improve like how frequently you can do it and what forms you can change into and how powerful, how much health those forms have when you change. Basically kind of like a little mini druid track. So I think we're good there. Um, I think I think the next thing to do is just figure out what kind of different class track is appropriate for each of these classes. So again, I talked about this, but for people who joined after I went over it, in Mythcraft, each of the different class tracks usually, or each class usually has several different class tracks that are structured in different ways, like the soldier here, which is just like a straight line. You just pick one talent, then the next, then the next, versus the protection track, which is a lot more of like kind of a web structure, allowing you to take, protection 1 intercept and then bounce over and take protection 2 battlefield support, then bounce back and take protection 3 challenging shout. And so you've got a lot more like kind of options there. Um, yeah, so we've got a lot to play around with. And yes, that is the piece I was looking for, Laudamus, is that it is Dark Arts that should be the half track, not Bloodmancy. You dip into it, you get your magic, and then you go do whatever else you want to do. That's it. So, out of these, I think that the obvious, yeah, as Laudamus said, I think the obvious half track is Dark Arts. Shapeshifting and Lord of the Pack may merge into one. I think that makes a lot of sense too, Pixelgeist. I think that Primal Source, probably not. I'd say just like take Warden of the Primals separately if you want to be like a primal vampire of some kind. I think Crimson Thirst is probably going to be the one that makes the most sense to be just like kind of a linear track. It's very straightforward. You drain people, you suck their blood, you get more strength, you go fight more. It's pretty direct. Shadowhopper is the other one that's pretty straightforward, but it is more about like subtlety and tact, so it makes sense for there to be more choices as you go. Probably some kind of split or webbed track with that one. The Lord of the Pack / shape shifting track. I think that one is primarily menu, as we were talking about earlier. Yeah, some kind of joint menu web like hybrid track. Yeah, Darklight. So in fifth edition, that's probably the kind of mechanic you would see in either Bloodmancy or Dark Arts. With Mythcraft, that would look like you regaining spell points based on like training people. So probably these are going to be combined in some way. Shadowhopper may be its own. Either Lord of the Pack and Shapeshifting are going to merge, or Shapeshifting and Shadowhopper are going to merge. Shadowhopper being like kind of the more sneaky roguelike abilities, and Shapeshifting obviously being beneficial for that. Dark Arts is a half track that makes a ton of sense. Bloodmancy is its own full track at this point. I think makes sense as well. But like those certain classic vampire tropes need to be available early in Bloodmancy, so that a 1 or 2 talent dip into it gives you everything you need to feel like the vampire that you want to play, while you can proceed to follow whatever other track you want to. Alternatively, in the final iteration, some Bloodmancy features, like if Ansaran vampires do age, then you can go into Bloodmancy to prevent that. If Ansaran vampires don't age, then I'll just move that up to the vampire entry talent. That would be funny, yeah. To play a Moon Druid, you've gotta be a vampire. Yeah, Laudamus, that makes a lot of sense too. So I think the next move is to take each of these and just deconstruct them a little bit, and then kind of rearrange them to figure out what makes the most sense here. So let's do that. We've got an improvement to grappling. You know, I'm just gonna... There we go. Make a bunch of cards here real quick. Improvement to grappling, bonuses when feeding. I'll leave all of that together for right now, but we'll break it down a little bit more in just a minute. borrow a little bit from those different classes. Improve your bite and gain a claws attack. Alright, I no longer need these. Went a little overboard there. Gaining a claws attack obviously precedes improving claws damage, so those are obviously going to come later. Pixel Guys, that is a really cool idea. If you said that earlier in chat, I'm sorry I missed it. I'm not sure if that would be Crimson Thirst or Bloodmancy, but I'm going to pop it in Bloodmancy just so I don't forget it. Some kind of improvement to grappling. We'll make a couple of those. That's one of the first ones you should get, I think, because other stuff will inform it. Gabor, thank you for hanging out. Hope you have a good day, evening, night, whatever time zone it is. Happy time zone. Have a good one. Okay, bonuses when feeding. We've got extra AP. We've got extra physical attributes. And we've got extra metaphysical attributes. Improve your bite attack with a couple different options there. And then just ideas from the Berserker, Ranger, and Warrior that we might include. Rage AP from the Berserker. What is the name of that feature from the Ranger? Let me find it real quick. Yeah, I agree. I think that that's just going to come from them being able to feed on other creatures, though, right? Regain some hit points when they do that. That's Rogue. We're almost there. There we go. Fighting Instinct. That's what I was thinking about. All right. Now, having written this all out, I no longer feel like just a straight linear track is appropriate for this this track. I think it will look more linear than a lot of the other tracks that we're going to work on here, but not just a straight 1 to 15. Damage threshold is very powerful. I don't think I want to give that to a player vampire. I suppose it could be a certain number of times per day, right? You gain a damage threshold of like your level, um, I don't know, endurance per day, that kind of thing. Exactly, Vampire Knight versus Vampire Hunter kind of split here. Um, let's go ahead and add some kind of tanky defense thing. And yeah, a resist that resist DR or DT overcome by various vulnerabilities. All right, yeah, it's a draft, right? We'll throw in DT and then we'll remove it if we need to. All right, so improvement to grappling definitely comes first in my mind, because if you're like a martial vampire and you regenerate from feeding on people, you're gonna have to run up and grab them, feed on them, toss them aside, move on, rinse, repeat, right? So we'll start there. And extra action points from feeding, I think, is pretty crucial to that build as well. From there, I think we can start to branch out. So get kind of like a rangery, strikery build. Basically mimic one of the three like very martial focused classes. I guess pugilist also is, right? But so I shouldn't say one of the three. One of three possible options here. And then how would each of these improve? Berserker might let you just kind of ignore things. Fighter would let you be more tactically tanky. Ranger, gain a claws attack. More of a striker build. Get that improvement to grappling again. Again, if you've played Mythcraft, if you're familiar with Mythcraft, you'll know and you'll see this with kind of how I'm piecing this together. A lot of times you'll get two or three abilities in those first couple talents, and then they will reappear and improve as you move throughout the track. I'm thinking, and that doesn't translate when I'm not also speaking. My thought process I just went through was trying to think of how many capstones I want this track to have. If I want it to be one, like, Crimson Warrior capstone, or if I want it to be three different capstones, kind of based on whether you went that warrior or berserker or ranger kind of approach. Grim the Dreamer, absolutely. My note at the top of the stream, though, was if you give advice, you've got to be okay with me using it, or with me like taking it, changing it, or with me just like not taking it. If you want to save advice for like a project that you're working on, like some kind of homebrew thing, then don't give it here. But otherwise, yeah, feel free to. Break the attributes into... yeah. Good idea, Laudamus. Yeah, so metaphysical attributes, where did the... There it is. Physical attributes. Oh, man, and then, of course, mental attributes just makes too much sense from from the perspective of keeping each of these three different branches having something that's like going on. So again, we'll, subject to revision, we can structure it like that. the warrior has kind of the metaphysical knowledge of the battlefield, right? The berserker is brute strength, and the ranger is more intellectual, more tactful. Let's see. Improve the so improving grappling and improving the bite attack, I think, will be universal to everyone. Maybe the claws attack should too. Maybe it shouldn't. I'll come back to that. I'll come back to what to do there. Just a couple other ideas that I had here. Improvement to... Oh, shoot. Where did the ideas go? Come back, come back, come back. Oh, yeah, okay. Extra damage against... Extra damage against bloodied targets, right? They're kind of reveling in the carnage. They're shark-like in a way. Okay, Grim the Dreamer. So this is just one track that we're working on. I believe you popped in a little bit late, I'm guessing. But we've got several other tracks here, including, like, what you just mentioned, Blood Magic. So, yeah, I think we've got your ideas covered there. Bonus when you are bloodied. Yeah, so extra damage to bloodied targets, extra damage when you are bloodied. Yeah, I like both of those. Now, again, this went from, oh, this is going to be a linear track to nothing of the sort. But it reminds me of some of those Ranger, like the Ranger Hunter track, where you pick one thing and then regardless of that one thing, you also pick a different thing and then you go back and get that first thing. But basically, your bite attack improves in some way, either healing you or adding bleeding to enemies of some kind. Right now, yeah, we're doing kind of a melee focused track. And so we've got kind of the warrior trope, the berserker trope, the ranger trope. You either heal or harm. You heal yourself or do extra damage to your enemies. Right, exactly. Kind of like tear, bite and tear as you're moving along. And then... Oh, here we go. It's not quite a perfect parallel, but close enough. Extra damage when you are bloodied, I think, makes the most sense for the Berserker build. Extra damage against bloodied targets would be the tactical warrior. You know, focus fire, take out one enemy at a time. And then we've got the improved claws damage on the other side. So, and that's just kind of across the board, right? But it's not as powerful, but it's also not conditional. So that feels really... I like that. That feels nice and symmetrical. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 9 talents, as currently ideated. Obviously, none of them are fully fleshed out. They'd need to be developed a little bit more. But that's 9 out of what you need for like a vertical track is 14 in well, I'm second guessing myself now. Is it 14 or 15? 14 ending with a capstone being the 15th, I think. Yes, yeah. So we would need 14 talents and then whatever capstone appears at the end. But we're yeah, DTDR could be a capstone. I think we're on a really good track here because, I mean, you know, if we just take these abilities and then make them more powerful. Now we're looking at around 14 talents. So this structure for this track I think is really good. This is what I originally wanted to do with the lycanthrope, and then it took 2 hours just to get the first like basic kind of structure down. So maybe a sequel stream at some point for the lycanthrope. But I feel really good about that Crimson Thirst track. And then capstone, not campstone, capstone or capstones down here at the end. The Lycan was really fun, and we got distracted with like moon lore and all of that, and there's not as much of that going on here with vampires. So Crimson Thirst is in good shape. Bloodmancy, let's knock out Dark Arts. That won't knock on wood. That shouldn't take a very long time. We'll get some momentum going here. So when you take it, you choose one, Student of the Arcane or Initiate of the Occult. Pretty straightforward. Yeah, Grim the Dreamer. So up here, when the melee vampire, when they feed, when they gain, or when they deal damage from their bite attack, then they get extra AP, which in Mythcraft is like you spend AP to move or make attacks instead of having like an action and a move and a bonus action. There's just a pool of AP or action points that you spend to do different things. Yeah, so we've got, obviously the first thing in this track is you get either arcane magic or occult magic. Yeah, that's totally fine. Grim the Dreamer, so again, this class is going to be both Mythcraft and 5th edition. Right now I'm just focused on Mythcraft terminology and all of that. But yeah, in its final form, when the book is done, it'll be in both editions. Both game systems, I should say. Alright, so after gaining Initiate of the Occult or Student of the Arcane, after gaining some capacity to cast magic, feeding on people, I believe Pixelgeist just mentioned this. Feeding on people reduces the amount of action points you have to spend to cast a spell, or it gives you spell points back, or for a short amount of time you can cast a spell for fewer spell points. So a lot of cool ideas there. That's enough to make several talents. Some kind of modification to damage dealing spells. That's what I'm getting from you. Dante's Virgil, I really like that idea. So you deal, or you cast a spell and it deals damage, and then in addition you poison. What happened to my spelling there? Poisoned. You poison the creature, or staggered, shaken, chilled, bleeding, etc. All of those are different conditions that you can get or give in Mythcraft. So, ideas there. And then, I think the other... let's see. Oh yeah, gain or give Psyche talents. Some kind of way to interact with Psyche talents, and that's a mechanic new to Veil of the Eternal Night. It has to do with sanity and such. Hi, Veil of the Eternal Night. I didn't say this at the top of the show. We are in our last 10 days of our Kickstarter, Veil of the Eternal Night, which is a 3-book gothic, grimdark, vampire horror campaign, tabletop role-playing game campaign for both Mythcraft and Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. Veil of the Eternal Night includes character options, as we're working on right now, and includes a massive campaign going from level 1 to 20 in 5th edition and level 1 to 30 in Mythcraft, from level 1 to maximum level, whichever system you're playing in. That's what we're doing. You can check it out at theeternalnight.com. We are... Let's actually take a look at where we're at. For some reason, that link is slow for me. Let me just... There we go. We are closing in on the $380,000 stretch goal. If we hit that, dare I say when we hit that? I don't want to jinx it. If we hit that, I will do another design stream that is going to be a new artifact, and there are several different legacy artifacts that gain power throughout the campaign. The artifact that I design is going to be chosen by group vote. So once we hit that, I'll do some announcements, I'll get the word out, and I'll start collecting votes about 4 different artifacts that I might design, and whichever one ends up winning is the one that I will design. So that's what Veil of the Eternal Night is. That's where we're at. I think most of you know that, but just in case. Whoa, okay. My chat just jumped. It looked like it froze there for a second. Oh, okay. Okay, never mind. We're good. Alright, so Psyche talents, and damage dealing spells that get modified in some way. Feeding on people to reduce action points or to regain spell points, different iterations of that. And I think the only other kind of branch here is, and maybe this is becoming a full track, I don't know. I kind of like the idea of that, so we'll see about it becoming a full track. You gain so you can take this talent to gain both, and then a couple different options to learn magic from multiple sources at one time. Let's spread this out a little bit. "5e has a spell where you can transfer HP over life transference, right? I think it's like a 3rd level spell. You lose HP and they... Yeah, 3rd level necromancy spell. You take damage and someone else... Yeah, that's pretty common. Gains hit points equal to twice the necrotic damage you take. Yeah. So, the Star Wars role-playing game I played growing up has that same force ability. Yeah, so does Mythcraft have something like that? I don't think we do yet. I wouldn't put it just in dark arts. I would put it probably in occult, in the occult source of magic, and so anyone who can learn the occult source of magic could potentially learn that spell. And so then the dark arts vampire could still learn that spell by gaining access to occultism. Okay, gain a student or initiate, and then gain different hybrid abilities. I'm going to go ahead and take the time to draw out little arrows here, because this one is kind of branchy. A menu track is what I would call that. Okay, sure, no worries, Dante. Again, yeah, all of the rules and player options for Mythcraft are free on our wiki. That's srd.mythcraftrpg.com. All of everything that we write for Mythcraft will be available for free on here. All of the game content will be available on here. But the creature list, for example, like there's a lot of creatures. That's a lot of data to enter, and so some of them don't have the stats like fully ideated yet. But we're working on it. We'll get there. Yeah, where did we put the idea for the Nosferatu monster? Sanity stuff. I believe it will, Laudamus. I That is something I want to double check with the team. But yeah, like I mean, we don't want a paywall to ever be a restriction for like playing the game. So I think all the sanity stuff will be on the wiki. Um, Thank you, Dante. Yeah, so some kind of Nosferatu ability might be in the shape changing track. All right, so I would definitely tighten this up and make it look cleaner before releasing it in like the Mythcraft rulebook. But this is a good kind of outline for this class track. I feel like it's not a full class track. It just gives you some additional options for spell casting. I would be really excited about this. I'd like to make. Did I misspell it? Nosferatu. Nosferatu? Um, alright, Dark Arts track is looking good. Let's see, 6:30. Um, at this juncture, I've got probably. Well, thank you, Aurora. I wasn't sure. I was like, did I completely mispronounce something? I wasn't sure. Okay. Um, I've probably got one more class track in me at this point. Do we want to try to mix Lord of the Pack and shape changing together, or look at the Bloodmancy or Courtier track? Shadowhopper I think is going to be fun, but it's also going to be a lot more kind of direct to build. So let's make it a choose your own adventure. Where do you guys want to go from here? And if it ends up being like a really fast, just kind of break it apart into multiple talents and move on, then we'll see. I can do. We'll see if I can do a couple more. But I am thinking Lord of the Pack and shape shifting. Um, there's a courtier. Blood. Okay. Blood. Okay. Um, Hemomancy. That's two and a half for blood, and two and a half for courtier. Nice. Any tiebreakers? Looks like the tiebreakers go into the courtier. All right. All right. Let's see. Let's break this guy apart. Let's see if I can do both. Let's start here and see. Um, improve your charms to start out. That's pretty obvious, kind of on the tin. Gain additional charisma-based skill points. Or influence-based. Courtier, this is like your vampire that is really, yeah, sociable. Your charm works better. You've got more command over individual people, over crowds. This one might be the one where you can have like a familiar. Yeah. I'm gonna add that real quick before I forget. I'm a familiar. Ignore that. Dracula doesn't want anyone to know. I shouldn't have said that. Let's see. Yeah, the Bard of Vampires. Yeah, some kind of limited sunlight resistance would make sense in the courtier track. I think full immunity needs to be like some kind of magic item, but I could see that. Full magical charm Jedi mind trick. Bonuses against creatures that were charmed. That's a really cool one. I like that one a lot. Improving your charm to where it's like a full-on enthralled condition, which is in Mythcraft that's like charmed, but it's just more intense. Charmed is like you wouldn't willingly fight them, whereas enthralled is like you would willingly fight on their behalf. Yeah, I've got that. So familiar in like witch terms is a small animal, and in vampire terms is a humanoid servant. But separately and also spawn or thralls. Grim the Dreamer, we do. Go back and watch the very beginning of the stream after we're done here. Dampier is going to be a lineage with this supplement for both Mythcraft and 5th edition. So theoretically, you could be a Dampier vampire. You're very much on the same wavelength as us. Yeah. Yeah. Hypnotic Gaze is the same kind of like charm ability we're working on here. Maybe psionic abilities of some kind. There we go. And yeah, maybe just straight up make more vampires. All right. We've got our building blocks pulled apart. Yeah, definitely Gesh or Chaos or what other pronunciations of that spell have I heard? I think those are the main two, Chaos or Gesh, however you want to say it, something like that. Okay, improving your charms is pretty obvious. Skill points, for sure. Improve your charms is going to happen a couple times. Let's just make some copies of it. You can start working on like your courtier profession, start networking and building that up. Compel individual people somehow. Very similar to improving your charms, but just like temporary, like wipe their mind kind of deal. Maybe this is the now that I'm looking at it, maybe this is the linear track. You just gradually get better and better at controlling people. Exactly. Yes. Grim the Dreamer. So in 5e terms, vampire would be the class, and these would be the different subclasses that you pick. In Mythcraft, each time you level up, you just choose a talent. So when you become a vampire, you would get the vampire entry talent, and then at vampire, like at level 3 or 4, whenever you level up in vampire, you would just pick like the Crimson Thirst track and start getting those talents, or the Courtier track and start getting those talents. And one of the big like design benefits of Mythcraft is you can bounce back and forth between tracks, unlike in D&D. At least in D&D Raw, I usually like to allow people to access other subclasses that they didn't choose through magic items and that kind of thing, if they want to try playing with multiple subclass features. Yeah, so I think linear track actually makes a lot of sense here because you just get better and better at exerting your will. Start getting some kind of familiar there. Yeah, gaining the ability to turn other people into full-on vampires is the level 20 ability that I ideated for the D&D vampire. Still subject to revision because it hasn't been like play tested and all of that, but yeah, for sure, Latimus. Thank you. Any kind of inspiration there? Again, like I'll if it's a short story or something like easy to consume, I will do that more quickly. Dresden Files is something I want to read, but it's a full series, right? Like it's a multi-book endeavor, and I've got enough of those going on right now. Um, yeah, here we go. So this is all looking really good. I think I've just got to figure out where to put the like auras and kind of social control, battlefield control kind of things. Yeah, I thought it was a large book series. I have heard of their role playing game system, but at least with something like that, I would rather start with the novels because the novels, as far as I'm aware, came first, as opposed to like Forgotten Realms novels, which generally most, as far as I'm aware, they all came after D&D started or after 3.5 started using the Forgotten Realms. Without giving too much away, Dante's Virgil, there are different types of approaches to that within Ansera. There are four different specific subspecies of vampire. I am not making a different class for each one. The mechanics of them are going to be similar enough that you could be any of them within this class. Um, but I don't really want to get too much more into specifics there until after we've rolled out a little bit of the Soliloquy of Annihilation campaign. Um, let's see. Let's just see what we're at here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Look at that. That's almost perfect. I may move those around a little bit. I like I like you getting to work on your reputation and all of that, and then that translates to battlefield prowess a little bit. And then eventually you get psionic abilities, but that's not early. You like the psionic kind of power comes later on. Um, yeah, and then at the very end you can make your own vampire, uh, like not just vampire spawn, but like full on full vampires. I have not seen Helsing yet. No, I haven't. Um, I be sure that that's on my watch list. It is. Yeah, I've got several Veil of the Eternal Night inspiration shows and movies that are on my watch list, and so Helsing is right up there. Just haven't gotten to it yet. Um, things are looking good. We've got three fully outlined, not fully ideated, but fully outlined class tracks there. These two are going to be combined into one, like as not. I think we can do the Bloodmancy one real quick, and then we'll probably end it there. Um, okay, but I want them both to. There we go. There we go. Um, all right, yeah. Let's go ahead and knock this out real quick. Let's break it down, see what kind of outline we come up with. Benefit from the number. That's such a cool idea. Blood armor. I like that too. Gain memories from feeding is awesome. And then, yeah, weapon or armor made out of blood. Other classic Gothic things like gargoyles. Gargoyles are a stat block, a monster stat block, or a set of monster stat blocks. There's a couple different kinds of gargoyles that I'm working on for Veil of the Eternal Night. In terms of player options with gargoyles, we don't have anything official planned, but I know that one of the folks in our Discord server, discord.gg/mythcraft, there's a channel for Homebrew, and I believe it was Adam, I think is who made a gargoyle like lineage that I think is pretty cool. I would like to sit down and try to play it sometime. So there's already a homebrew option there, and there's going to be gargoyle monsters and things of that nature. There are also I know this isn't directly gargoyle, but there are bat folk creatures, like humanoid bats essentially, that separate from Dampier because they're not directly related to vampires. They're more on the like primal animal side. Yeah, I thought it was Adam. Thank you, Spaz. Yeah, so lots of different kind of gothic things going on there. Oh, summon. Okay, yeah. Let me add that to things you might be able to summon. Very cool. Makes a lot of sense too. Like if they can summon bats and they can summon like skeletons and shadows. Yeah, that fits in really well there. All right. Bloodmancy track here definitely starts with the immortality thing, which again, we may move up to like base vampire features, but just in case we don't, it'll be at this like very bottom tier so that you can take a one talent dip into it if that's kind of the playstyle that you want. Feeding on creatures to remove death points, benefiting from the number of death points that your allies have, gaining memories from feeding. So I think each of these abilities are cool and can get more powerful over time. I'm gonna essentially take them and duplicate them, signifying that they get stronger over time. And now I'm going to look for some parallels. So feeding on creatures to remove death points is the opposite or the inverse of benefiting from the number of death points that your allies have. So I think that's where we get kind of a split track. You pick one or the other. So this is potentially an incompatible track. Hello, Solo Wolf. Thanks for joining us. Enhanced smell and tracking. Yeah, that makes sense for this track. So, you go straight down the track and then you pick one or the other here. Yeah, bonuses to con. That's a really good idea too. Or even just, this is powerful, so I'm not sure exactly how quickly you could get there, but kind of the same thing as like a 5th edition Constitution bonus, just in Mythcraft terms. Okay, blood weapon and blood armor. Those are also two sides of the same coin, the same idea. Those don't necessarily need to be incompatible, right? Because you might want to pick up both of them. Let's see. Oh, and the other thing is gaining this set of abilities here. I think that these two class tracks might share the Psyche talent mechanic. So you can go into Bloodmancy and then you can manipulate Psyche talents, or you can go into the Dark Arts magic and from there you can manipulate Psyche talents. Either way. Well, yeah, certainly more like armor is defensive and the weapon is offense. But I don't necessarily want you to have to pick one or the other for like your entire character build. Obviously, they'd be different talents, but whereas like feeding on creatures to remove death points or benefiting from enemies or from other creatures, from your allies having death points, at this current draft, they are incompatible with one another. I wouldn't do the same thing with summoning a weapon and armor. Solo Wolf, we've got some of that kind of stuff in the Crimson Thirst track, or feeding on people to gain extra action points. We don't have specifically sacrificing health to action points with these guys. I think the Vessel does that from the Mythcraft base game, but we've got things like that for Crimson Thirst. So we'll make those both a little bit stronger. Some bonuses to your summons, Dante. Are you talking about like summoning bats and spiders and the other kind of creatures that you might gain from Lord of the Pack kind of abilities? Or are you talking about something else with your summons? I really like the idea of like getting memories from feeding on people and that getting stronger and stronger. So I think that's going to be kind of the center part of this that you keep coming back to before you make more choices. Just delete that. So, you make one choice or the other, and then you come back and you get the memory thing. And then from memories, you focus on, whoops, don't know what that is. You focus on your weapon or your armor, and continue to improve that a little bit. But you can also, move from one to the other. Get stronger with your endurance, as some of you were pointing out. That would be really cool, Pixel Guys. I think, like, at a distance from the ground, we've got different spells for that. So I would say use the Dark Arts track to gain access to those spells and do that kind of thing. But doing that, getting some Dark Arts tracks, talents to do that, and then also summoning like a lance out of blood into your own hand that you go and fight with. That's a very like Vlad the Impaler look for sure. Yeah. Let me make a note real quick. Maybe same talent, just switch forms. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's about 2/3 of a class track right here. I think gaining simply gaining additional benefits based on your first choice makes sense, right? It kind of repeats. There we go. So that's roughly, whoops, roughly this class, and then this would be like the capstone instead of just gaining more health. And I don't quite know what to put there. Something cool and crazy. All the capstones are, but the exact iteration of that I'm not sure about yet. And that's a nice split track. It's got two different kind of layers of things going on with your weapons and armor, and with your Bloodmancy letting you feed on creatures to remove your own death points, maybe to remove the death points of allies if you feed to them somehow. Could correspond with turning people into vampires somehow through this track as well. And then, on the other hand, you could choose to just benefit from the number of collective death points that your allies have. So a lot of really cool stuff going on with the Bloodmancy track. I think the Shadowhopper and the Summoner Shapechanger tracks are going to be something we tackle at another point. I'm getting pretty hungry and my voice is getting pretty tired. So, yeah, I think we're going to wrap up. Thank you all for hanging out with me. I'm really excited for this, and I think this is a really cool play style. Out of what we've done so far, I would personally be a dark arts courtier. I think is kind of the track that I would go. But yeah, I think there's a lot of fun options with these different play styles. Once again, a reminder: if you are not aware, or if you haven't checked it out in a while, please go to theeternalnight.com, or just go to Kickstarter and look up Veil of the Eternal Night. We are closing in on another stretch goal, and once we hit it, then I will do a poll to figure out what new artifact to introduce to the game, and I'll do a design stream building it in real time with all of you. So yeah, thank you all for hanging out. I really appreciate it, and I'll talk to you all next time.